Guys, I did it. I've used this new 15-inch MacBook Air for a month now, and I'm getting this strange feeling of deja vu. But there is something in this MacBook that makes me want to use it more, and something that makes me want to get rid of it. So in this video, I'm gonna tell you about all the secrets this MacBook holds, so you could decide to buy or not to buy. Let's go. Okay, let's divide this video in parts, each dedicated to specific action I did on this laptop. The first one is watching movies. You know, I prefer watching movies on a big screen, on a TV preferably, while laying on a couch. And watching any movie on a laptop isn't the same in any way, but during the month of using this MacBook, I have found myself watching the movie on it. And there are 3 reasons why I did that. 1, the screen is huge for MacBook Airs. 15 inches is more than enough for a regular person, and any movie looks great on this display. It's still a Retina panel, goes up to 500 nits of peak brightness, has great color accuracy and sharpness. Yes, it's basically a high quality IPS panel, not some fancy mini LED like in MacBook Pros, and it's only 60 Hz. But these subtle drawbacks really fade away after a few hours of using this laptop. Even I, a person super used to ProMotion displays, had no problems with this 60 Hz panel. Another thing that made me want to watch movies on a 15-inch MacBook Air is its speaker system. Yeah, I know, after years with MacBook Pros, the speakers in the 15-inch Air don't sound that impressive, but in a vacuum, they're pretty good. They are reasonably loud, have enough bass, lows and highs, a very balanced setup. It somewhat lacks clarity, loudness, and details, but still, movies do sound great. And the third reason why watching content on this laptop is so good is its size, weight, and overall form. This is a super compact laptop for its size. 15-inch laptops are usually pretty bulky and thick, but this one, it's super light and thin. I've said the same thing about the 13-inch Air, but that one was a pioneer in this new design of MacBook Air. This 15-inch one is the same, but bigger. And this exact combo of thinness, lightness, great display, and good speakers is what made the 15-inch MacBook Air a perfect device for content consumption. But watching movies wasn't the only thing I did. I also used this laptop to browse the web. And that's where I encountered my first problems, but that didn't happen instantly. It took some time for problems to reveal themselves. Initially, the experience was quite good. The pages were loading fast, the size of the display made everything look amazing, and I was browsing as usual like I'm used to. But then I saw it. This page was reloaded due to its using too much memory. That's when it hit me. This MacBook may not be what it seems and claims to be. This reloading was quite rare at first, so I didn't really pay attention to it. But the more tabs I opened, the more I saw pages reloading, and there is only one explanation to why this is happening. Memory. Because anytime I opened the activity monitor, I saw the processor just idling, but the memory was almost always full. But what else could I expect? This is a base model. 8 gigs of unified memory is all it has. And that is definitely a bit lower than I'm used to. Of course, if I just changed the way I use the laptop, this problem wouldn't have surfaced so fast, but still, get you thinking. Okay, maybe Safari just needs some updates and that's all. So let's move on to the next type of my activity, typing documents. You know, being a YouTuber is not just about shooting and editing videos, it's also about writing scripts, creating tables, and so on. You can even say that there is some office-like work in my workflow, so how did this MacBook hold up? Well, rather well, I must say. If you're used to Apple-made pages and numbers, you won't have problems. The documents load quickly, the typing is super responsive, and 99% of the experience is superb. Yet sometimes when trying to change font, the editor might freeze for a second, you'd see a loading beach ball, and then it's back to normal. And how about other apps? I don't use Microsoft Office Suite, so I chose Google Docs as an alternative, and the website and all the functionality here is immense, nothing lags, no slowdowns or hiccups, but I must warn you, Google Docs, Sheets, and other similar sites are super RAM heavy. Just one tab can take up to 8 100 megabytes of memory, so you better not open too many tabs at once, or you're gonna see dropped frames in animations, reload in sites, and so on. Before we move to a really demanding workflow, let me say a few more good and so-so things about this MacBook. One, I absolutely love the battery life. Since the 15-inch MacBook Air has a larger battery than the 13-inch model, I was absolutely loving the battery life on that machine. It comes to no surprise that the 15-inch model, for me, lives even longer. But Arthur, Apple claims the 13 and 15-inch MacBook Airs have the same battery life. Well, on paper, yes, but in my reality, the 15-inch holds charge a bit better. One, because of the larger display. Since the display is bigger, I can use it at a lower brightness, which adds a few minutes to the clock. But that's not the only thing contributing to good battery life. Since the body of a laptop is physically bigger, there is more room for heat dissipation. The laptop doesn't heat up that quickly if I'm doing short, bursty tasks, which means it finishes them faster and uses less power doing it. Of course, I'm not saying the difference between the 13-inch and the 15-inch is super drastic, but it's there. It can vary from a few minutes to half an hour depending on how I use the laptop, which is great. On a long train ride, this half an hour may come in handy. Another good thing I've been loving is a trackpad. It is much larger than on the 13-inch MacBook Air, and believe me, you feel every bit of that difference. The trackpad on the 13-inch model was already huge for its size, but here it's even bigger and better. On such a huge trackpad, gestures feel even more natural and there is even more room for those four-finger gestures. It is just as smooth and responsive as before, but bigger. Of course, the bigger trackpad cannot be the reason to choose this laptop over the 13-inch, and it's definitely not something worth selling your 13-inch MacBook for. Just a really nice thing to have. Okay, now we've arrived at the real workflow, the real heat. You know me, I'm no stranger to creative activities, so it is normal for me to edit videos, photos, 3D model stuff, the usual, you know? I do it on every laptop I test, and I did all that on this 15-inch MacBook Air. So what can I say? Well, this Mac does pack quite a punch, but this punch, that is the unbent M2 chip, is softened by three problems we know everything about: the memory, SSD, and thermals. I've talked a lot about these issues already, but since this is a long-term review, I need to comment on them once again, since after a month, I saw their impact to full extent. The 8 gigs of unified memory is still a problem, just as it was a year ago. 8 gigabytes is not enough, period. Especially in heavy apps like Final Cut, Adobe Premiere, Photoshop, Blender, and others. If you run only one app at once, the experience is quite nice. The apps themselves are smooth and responsive, the laptop doesn't really lag, but all rendering, export, and post-processing takes quite a bit of time, mainly because of the unified memory limit. Because when these 8 gigs are done, the laptop has to use swap, and that's where the slow SSD comes in. Swap on the 15-inch MacBook Air is virtually ineffective, and you shouldn't expect it to solve the RAM problem. Of course, you can do what I did. Leave the laptop to do its rendering on itself. If you just leave it be and don't watch anything on it or browse the web while it renders stuff, you're gonna be fine. But if you're used to a somewhat fast workflow and you don't want to watch TikToks every time you need to render or export something, this MacBook will be a disaster for you. Slow SSD and 8 gigs of unified memory are the two main reasons why I can't recommend this MacBook to any professional, at least in the base configuration. Thermals, on the other hand, is a problem, but a smaller one. These M-series chips are quite cold, and the small throttling that is still present is not a huge deal, since the Mac remains quite responsive at all times. Yet if you're looking at a bone stock MacBook Air 15-inch, thermals will be just another nail in the coffin. If you combine all three problems, the laptop stops being a good buy. So, what should you do? After a month, I can say that the lowest price you can get this from Apple is $14.99. There's no way to use it with only 8 gigs of memory. With the $200 upgrade, you can kill 3 birds with 1 stone. I think that this laptop is best for people with simple needs that haven't changed in years. Office workers, school kids, older people, but not students or creative youth. Hope this long-term review would be useful for you and help you buy the right MacBook. Also, be sure to check out our video about mistakes you can make while buying this and other MacBooks. Thank you for watching, guys. Peace out.